Alright, welcome back. Where we left off last episode was this picture of our progress so far, and I'm not sure what happened. I thought we found all our long lost footage, as we called it, but really all I can find is still shots and other videos that don't really capture much more of the assembly process, if you will, more fitting and outdoors. So we'll just go ahead and proceed from here.
A few other thoughts are worth mentioning. I've gone through an entire spool of yellow, nearly an entire spool yellow, another I should say. The original was one of those replacement spools, which, yeah, I'll never do that again. It might be a little cheaper, but I'd save maybe $4 going with a brand that wasn't the one I normally use. I use Solutech pretty much exclusively. This is called Superfilla. S-U-P-E-R-F-I-L-A. I guess that's short for super filament. But it's your standard 1.75 millimeter 1 kilogram spool. It's just a bit brighter yellow than the Solutech there. This is more of a corn kernel yellow, and this is more of a lemon yellow. I don't know how else to describe it. I used nearly that entire spool of the replacement Solutech yellow, printing as many of those panels as I could until the spool was gone. In fact, this is the last panel I have left from the replacement spool. This is off of the new, cheaper Superfilla spool. I printed a couple of back panels here. Hang on 1 second. A couple of back walls, and I don't remember if I showed you these in a big old 10-foot by tall by 8-foot wide set of carriage doors, along with an office door next to it. For maybe someday I'll convert this to a factory, or I'll use this same design to create a factory to where I have this on a railhead platform, and then maybe, move the door down to ground level, as if you had to go downstairs inside to go from the platform level to ground level. But I just thought I'd mention, I've gone through two spools, the replacement spool I think was a 1.5 kilograms, so I've gone through 2.5 kilograms. Well, at 2 kilograms and 2.2 pounds per kilogram, there's roughly 4.5, 5.5 pounds of plastic. The spools are anywhere from $15 to $20 a piece, maybe a little bit more depending on if it's a special color or it's a metal type of thing, or if it's a wood or glow in the dark, or you name it. They make all kinds of different color changing, and just a whole slew of different uses. I would say, if I had to guess, if you were going to do this, you might as well figure on 2 1 kilogram spools. So I don't know if you can see. Well, there goes the corner. How this is still pretty flimsy. So again, it's just a skin. It's not meant to be a standalone structure. You could certainly do more. You wouldn't have to necessarily print bricks, but you could actually print box girders if you wanted to, and strengthen it like a real brick building. with steel girders to help support the weight of the brick. In this case, you'd be supporting the weight of the plastic, but it's certainly doable. In our case, like I say, we're trying to puppy-proof. It's going over a set of concrete blocks specifically meant to do that, so there's no, shall we say, over-engineering to make structural members or make this all standalone. You could certainly do that, and the idea is with this brick pattern here, I already have an inverted version of that I want to experiment with actually casting using the PLA as the pattern sheet, and in that way I can actually glue all the pieces together like I have here and have a mold the size that I need and do one, what's that, monolithic pour, have it come out and be, I'd have one solid wall, and then I'd join it to another wall, join it to another wall. Hey, come back here. Amazon just went by. I saw on the camera, and I'm expecting some stuff, which reminds me, that's why I brought up I'm almost out of filament. I need to go order some more. So let me get this window panel printing, go order some more filament, get the rest of these taken care of, and we'll be back.
The next step in the process was to paint the assembly that we had so far. I'll go ahead and add in the commentary that I had about running out of filament yet again and having to wait. So I don't know if you can tell from this picture, but along the back here, and I'll try and run the mouse cursor around where I'm missing essentially these 4 pieces as well as these 2 pieces. So if you can imagine an assembly, these 6 pieces here that needs glued back here where you see the yellow stripes, I had to wait on another spool of filament to be delivered before I could finish the printing process or the assembly process once I printed those pieces. So that's kind of what we're looking at here.
All right, new spool of bright lemon yellow filament arrived. I have the last 2 pieces for the tower that I need, and I'm working on printing the 4 that I need for the center part on the back wall. I am more than pleased with how it's turned out so far. It looks great. We'll see how this does over time. Again, this is the grand experiment to see if we can skin these blocks rather than cast them. And my reasoning there is when you use more than one block, more than one concrete block, it's difficult to keep them all connected. So if I were to try and mortar a face that extended beyond a block, it would crack. It would need to somehow have enough strength to hold the blocks together, which it doesn't. Even with the reinforcing mesh, the hardware cloth, the chicken wire, whatever you want to call it, it doesn't have enough strength short of boring holes and bolting it together or actually mortaring it together, which is a losing proposition regardless of how you fasten them. That's a lot of weight to move. A concrete block is a lot of weight to move by itself. Now put 4, 5, 6 of those together and now try and lift all that without some kind of a mechanism to assist you, so to speak. You probably have already noticed the simulated lightning effect that I was able to add to our lighting effects lineup. And this is running off an Arduino right here. One of the ones that is still waiting to go into the passenger car. But in this case, I think I'm going to reallocate that to the ghost town And you can see it's just an LED strip. See if maybe that'll help. Oh, the diffusion works pretty good for the camera. You can still see the dots. They're a lot more prevalent. Looking straight at it, you can see that it's individual LEDs. And what I found out last night when I did a quick test at sunset was that if those LEDs are pointing at you, you can tell it's just a strip of LEDs. So what I want to do is come up with some kind of mechanism, some means to diffuse the individual LEDs to make it look like a flash. This is the best I have so far. This is just an aluminum channel with a snap-in diffuser, kind of a commercially available system of mounting these things on your bar, around your TV, or do-it-yourself kind of kits. Again, there are folks that install these professionally and they use something similar. This is going to be a temporary setup, so I'm not real worried about intrusion protection levels. But as I was saying, unless you silicone the ends where you've defeated the weatherproofing, if you will, the weather seeps in. And before we tore down the train station and the planter that the train station was based on, at least the platform roof, I had a set of these out there, and they weren't the 2812, they were the 5050s, and it was normally just on all the time on the fade, you know, red, green, blue, magenta, cyan, yellow, white, just cycling through it, like breathing, I guess is the effect that they call that. When I took those down, more than once, more than twice, the lights stopped working on, in one case, half of the train station, which is 8 foot long. 16 total, so half of that was 8 foot. An entire strip just stopped working. And when I pulled it out of there, pulled it apart, I realized that, oh, there we go, blast. I realized that I should have probably sealed the ends better. So what I did, I got these channels, and there's clips that you can screw the clips in, and then you can snap these channels up into those clips. So you can still get it apart rather quickly to do maintenance. And in this case, we're talking about, yeah, the entire strip didn't work. Well, the weather worked its way in, and not only did it deteriorate that sticky part of it, but it deteriorated, it corroded the copper traces. It just basically attacked everything to where each segment, you can tell, each segment has 3 LEDs. And each one of those LEDs has a red, green, and blue in it. Well, each one of those sections, if you put it on white, had a different tint. This one might be kind of purplish, and the next one might be kind of greenish, and the next one might be kind of yellowish or bluish, or, yeah, depending on what level of degradation the electronics had suffered from being outside. So don't let them fool you. These things aren't really outdoor proof. There are things I could have done better to make them last longer, but I really don't see how these things are going to hold up over time. Probably these here, where it has a like a rubberized, I'm not even sure what that material is, but silicone rubber, clearish silicone rubber. But where I snipped it and where you would solder, I don't know if you can see the hair. Let me see if I can get that a little closer. If the lighting wasn't so poor. You can see the little copper fingers in there. And every place you snip, you can either put you can slide it into a clip, or you can solder wires. But I think if you sealed that with silicone to where you kept the atmosphere inside there constant, you can see here where I've actually soldered the wires on there. And that gives me an easy, quick disconnect. And then what I did was I made a pigtail to slide on to the right angle connectors there. Pay no attention to that sloppy, slobbering, soldering job there. It works, and that's the best I can say about that. What I've determined is 3, 6, 8. So about 8 of these will fit in there, maybe 9. If you, I'll pop up a picture overlay. You can see that these windows don't quite cover the edges of the concrete block. So if I allow 5 inches inside the block for the variations in the blocks that I have in the backyard now, or should I say the barkyard, the different variations I've measured in the blocks I have in the barkyard right now, say that I've got about 5 inches. So that's 3, 6, 8. I can get 8 LEDs in each, if you will, square, 5 inch by 5 inch square. Let's see, 5 inches, what's that? 75, almost 80 millimeters. Wow, was I off? Let's say 127 millimeters. I think I need more coffee. So anyway, what I will have to do is have a segment of 8, snip it there, put some more wiring in, have another segment of 8, snip it there, another segment of 8. So I've got a tall block, a block laid on its side, so there's 1, 2, 3, and then another tall block, 4 cells in a row, and then another 4 cells in a row if I do just the upper and lower half of the block. Well, I actually have more than 2 walls. I have 1, 2, 3 walls that, I don't know if you can see that. I have this. So if you look at, in the middle here is the middle of the block. So I'd have whatever's down here would be in this half of the window, and whatever's up here will be in the top half of the window. I don't know if I really want to do that. So do I all of a sudden go from 4 strips on the top, 4 strips on the bottom, to 4 strips on the bottom, 4 strips for the bottom half of the middle windows, 4 strips for the top half of the middle windows, and then another 4 strips for the top? Or how do I do that? I may be able to fashion it to where this diffusion technique will work, and you can see why I paint the backs of these things black. The light just comes right through there. So here's a piece of black ABS to give you an idea. Yeah, nothing's coming through there. But we're well on our way to figuring all that out and getting that. Got a few days left till Halloween, so cross your fingers, wish me luck. We'll get this all squared away, and maybe even I've got a, here, let me see. Where did I put that? So what I have is, you probably never see in the little window there that that's red. It's red is where I'm going with that. Whole spool of red. Hopefully have enough time to print enough of a skin, at least for what we see, for the Corner Drugstore, and maybe some more spooky effects there.
Well, that last segment was pretty much the last of the footage that I have of assembling the Grand Hotel, unfortunately. And I'm having trouble even finding still photos, still pictures, photographs of anything else that was done for assembly. The next segments that I'll include have to do with my going on about the spool of brick red filament there towards the end. And essentially, we're trying to not only finish the Grand Hotel, but finish the downtown ghost town at that point. These next clips are from Halloween Day and the last ditch effort to get everything in place for Halloween. The Corner Drugstore came out better than I expected. The Corner Drugstore was a last ditch effort, last minute if you will, on the evening of Halloween as the sun was setting. Thankfully, it all came together. We had all the effects, and we had a haunted downtown ghost town, and totally pleased with the way it turned out. I'm just a little puzzled as to what happened to all the footage, the photographs and whatnot. So I'll leave you with the last few hours of Halloween night, or the evening of Halloween, as it was getting dark.
Back with our latest update on the haunted ghost town, downtown ghost town. I been doing a number of things. If the simulated lightning and all that good stuff hasn't caught your attention yet, let's blind the camera with LED strings. I've been able to get the Arduino sketches to a state where I'm quite pleased with being able to set up individual groups. What I have is a number of segments of the 2812, so this plugs into the Arduino, and then I have a strip of 8 connected to another strip of 8 connected to another strip of 8 connected to another strip of 8, and then another pigtail on the end, so if you want to daisy chain more. Again, the idea is I already have a string of these out there in the Grand Hotel, and I should be able to easily update the code to say, okay, instead of having 32 LEDs, you now have 64 LEDs. I've used now nearly this entire, what is it, a 3-meter strip? It's like 16.2 feet, something like that. So this essentially is all that I have left is what's left on that final wrap on the spool. That's created installations for a number of passenger cars, not to mention this string here is actually a group of 6 segments that are 8 LEDs long. The nice thing here, 3 wires, and this thing without anything more than, say, you know, just a standard USB with one of these power blocks, something like that, or even the smaller one. You don't have as much lifetime on the smaller one, but also in the works. I think you can see all the panels I've been printing for the corner cafe. I started out, and you can barely see how this panel here is more of a brick red color than this bright red that everything else is printed in. I bought a spool. I bought a spool of filament that was that more brick red color, dedicated for printing the corner pharmacy, corner drugstore, corner cafe, whatever it's going to be. Still designing it the day of Halloween, but ran into some issues with it, and of course I was 5 days out on the return window, so I couldn't get my money back or a new spool, so I had to buy another, what Solutech calls bright red, and you can't tell because I've got this. Let's see if I can change that. I will bring up the control center for these lights, and I will see if that works. It doesn't. No. There. That is so nice. Click one power button and everything turns off. So without all that, I think you can see there's a little bit of a difference now that it's not so washed out. Long story short, I had a bit of a distraction last night. I started printing this sheet here, and I have a battery backup, uninterruptible power supply, whatever you want to call it, And I'll show you how I use this. Right there. Anyway, have a battery backup. We took just the briefest power hit yesterday, just a little dropout, real quick dropout. Didn't reset any of the clocks, didn't do anything. All it did was trigger the battery backup to fail. And of course, it was right in the middle of printing, so I was on maybe the second or third layer out of 9 on this. And these take about 3 hours, 3.5 hours to print, even with me setting it for 80 millimeters a second, so which is really pushing the printer to the limits. I've since swapped out that battery backup, so yeah, it's sitting on the floor waiting for me to order a new battery for it, but it was frustrating to say the least. It took an hour away from what little precious time I have left to get this working. So today's focus, besides getting some more of the channel to install these in the buildings, is going to be getting a skin with all this put over top of the corner cafe and getting a controller set up. I have one more that I can make another pigtail like this. It shouldn't take that long. You use the crimpers, and I buried them there somewhere. Okay, a couple of pins with the crimpers and another. I got a whole slew of the cables, so let me put this. So yeah, just grab one end, grab the other end. Actually, it's going to be this end here, goes on the pigtail. Might as well grab it while I'm in there. And there you go. So that's the focus for today. So right after I said it, I happened to look over and see the piece that I'd peeled off when the battery backup glitched the print. So yeah, it's thin as paper. There's one layer there, and it was actually putting the second layer on. You could see it had jumped past this window. Oops, right there. And was putting that second layer down, and then right there's where it died, where the blob of goo just kept oozing out of the nozzle that was still hot but now no longer powered. Fun times. I'm going to get back to work on this and not bore you with gluing plastic sheets together or crimping pins on the wires. Bring you back when I've got something a little more exciting.
All right. Haunted Grand Hotel. Shit's on fire, yo. Yeah. Let's see if I can get some bright greenish. Alright. Ectoplasm is freaking out there at the Grand Hotel. Kinda grainy. Well, there we have it. Haunted hotel and ghost town downtown. So far, I have the skin for the Corner Drugstore sitting right here, waiting for me to put the lights and the guts in it. So now what I need to do is get the passenger cars with the effects running. Running out of time. Running out of time. It's already almost dark. Awesomeness. Loving it. Corner Drugstore is done. Well, working, not done. Well, there you have it. That was the final product for the Grand Hotel and the Downtown Ghost Town. I was thoroughly pleased with how well it came out. I'm going to wrap up the video. I plan on having a finale episode at some point in the future to see how well things held up. Totally pleased with the outcome. We had a haunted ghost town for Halloween, and hope you enjoyed this series. Thanks for watching. See you next time.